with Deanna's reminder for everyone if you're not there.
Thank you for reminding everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just turn on your mic when you're ready to go.
Okay. Good idea, Richard.
Yeah, she reminded us.
Is this Marsh?
Some of the judges in the courts, bailiff will take your phone and you won't get it back.
Ooh.
Maybe in a week or so, but.
I actually saw a YouTube where a judge smashed it.
Ooh.
Had a hammer beneath the bench, said, "Can I see that phone, counselor?" Smack.
The worst ones are the federal ones, though. The federal judges.
Marcia, when did you send me that email?
Oh, I think it was Monday.
You got my response, didn't you, Marcia?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I sent it on.
Did you copy me on it, Richard?
No, I just answered one part of it, and then the rest, the part
Is
was
that this part right here?
that we never met.
Oh.
I don't know if I copied you on it, hit reply. I'll forward it to you. I just basically told
Well,
you we never,
Well, I
the
wanted
three
to
of
go,
us had never met.
where is this? It should be right here, right? Cancel, I gotta cancel that. Okay, now it should be, Marcia should be right there. And you think it was Monday?
I think so.
Wow, look at there's 50, 60 today. Unbelievable.
I hear the tone.
Oh, I got it.
Marcia, I mean, okay. I don't know why I'm not finding any.
Okay, are we ready? We'll just start with the 15 minutes of public comment. But I wanted to take your comment or your email rather than to have me draft it, which could take me days. I figured we'd just go through it, okay? Marcia wrote to me, in fact, you're the only person who wrote to me concerning the charter, so I have some questions and I'm forwarding them for your responses. How was Michael Geller selected to sit on the ad hoc charter committee table rather than in the audience with the rest of the non-elected individuals? And the simple answer to that is that he's our advisor, so he's sitting here because he will be answering questions and he will be for us, for the subcommittee. So just so we get the ground rules straight for this, this is an ad hoc committee. We do not have to notice it. We don't have to put an agenda out. However, we are noticing as if it were a regular committee. So we're trying to extend ourselves to make a committee that the purpose of an ad hoc committee is to get work done and to work with people like outside advisors and consultants. Is that mine or?
That's yours.
Oh, it's just catching up on the emails. So anyhow, Michael is our advisor. He's donating his time and his talent. And he's here because both Richard and I know him, and so does Suzanne, and so we know him, we trust him, and he has lived in this city for many years, and he loves this city, and he's been involved in this charter thing since 2006. He's a lawyer, and so that's it. And we have the right as an ad hoc committee to have an outside advisor, so that's why he's here. You stated at the prior ad hoc meeting that he was our expert on charters. Was there a council vote selecting him to the ad hoc committee, expert on charters? No. This is a committee decision, and it is Richard and mine's decision to make, and we have made it. All right. Was the vote by the entire council? No. Again, when did the vote occur? It didn't occur. Why is it necessary for Geller to be sitting at the council members' table when we have our city attorney present and acting in that position? Because he's the advisor to the committee and she is the city attorney for the city. It's quite possible under other circumstances that the person advising this ad hoc committee, if it didn't involve charters, wouldn't be a lawyer. It might be a planning individual. It could be any number of occupations sitting next to us advising us during an ad hoc committee. Is Michael Geller still your personal attorney? Yes. on some issues. Is Geller, and he's my personal friend, and I consider him for 14 or 15 years. I don't think I have a closer friend than Michael Geller. I trust him implicitly in the car business. The way you would confer that to someone else would be to say, I would trust Michael Geller with uncounted money. Is Michael Geller receiving any kind of stipend or payment for participation in the committee? He bought me a taco. He'll probably, if you know Michael, he'll be asking me for reimbursement at the end of the meeting. Is his previous written Moreno Valley charter being used for the current charter? No. As we stated before, the model for this charter is the Riverside City Charter and the City of Oakland Charter, City of San Jose, and dozens others. All right. We will be looking at his draft initial charter. It had a lot of good points to it and good ideas, but it was written in 2005, so therefore it may not be totally pertinent. Okay. Does Michael Geller meet with you and Richard privately? He has met with me privately. We just had a telephone conference before this meeting. That's why these things are being printed late. And it is nothing unusual for us to do it. And if Mr. Stewart and he have not met, that's just because they chose not to. But there would be nothing improper about us meeting privately. And so, but Michael and I have met privately from time to time. We see each other almost every day. I appreciate the assistance with obtaining clarity for my confusion about roles in our city's ad hoc committee. And Marcia Amino. So Marcia, are there any other questions concerning Michael's role?
Not right now.
Okay.
Tom, can I add something?
Sure.
Seriously, and this even includes you, Marcia. I know you and I have never gotten along on anything, but
What are you talking about?
this process we're going through right now, you should have the email address. I get my city emails on here as well as on my computer.
You can have
Please, if you see a charter somewhere that you can discover online from some city that you like, or even part of that you like, please, take an excerpt from it and send it to me. If you have a comment on what we're doing here, you say, oh, this sentence is silly and this is stupid and here's a better one, please do that to me. Give me the right to plagiarize and put it in as my own idea if you want to. But really, this process is not a Richard Stewart, Tom Owings, Michael Geller deal. I've got people that I know. I'm going to ask Art Hernandez to look at some of this stuff, some other people. He's got a whole bunch of people that are going to look at. This really is something that everyone has the opportunity to participate in, seriously. Email it is the best thing. If you got an article, if you see research, we've got a whole bunch of research, by the way.
Charter email is charter@moval.org. Pretty hard to remember.
And that's the honest truth is there's no, I mean, I'm looking at some of this stuff for the first time, and when you're writing something like this, you don't start from scratch. You do copy other cities and look at it. But there may be a better one. There's a couple of them that are worse I've already seen. But do your research, go online, go to Google, do whatever you have, get your friends, your organizations, whatever it is, and maybe not send the whole thing, send the part that you like the best. And I'll guarantee you, I'll look at it, and Tom will, I'm sure, and Mike will probably as well. Because this is going to come out to be better because it's done, taking the best of all the ones you can ever find. All right, so that's my 2 cents on it. But this is not a secret deal. We're not running around and trying to come up with some crazy deal. Okay.
Paying attention, I'm going to give you this so that you don't confuse it with the other.
What is this?
This is the
Latest?
latest of the first. So there should be a stack of those somewhere.
I'm trying to figure why the date is the March.
Did they pass these out already?
Yeah.
This is the same as the one I printed, huh?
No, it's not.
Oh, how can they have the same date?
I don't know.
Oh, this is the latest one then. I'm going to put today's date on
She
it.
should have changed it, but she didn't.
All right.
So what you have, I need to turn this off. You know what it is it's one of those, somebody's against the Mid-County Parkway, and so they've sent 600 emails. So,
Better you than me.
I think you're going to get them next. So the first one is the preamble, and this is getting down to a first draft. This is past the first muster with the attorney. and it has incorporated some of her changes. And so I just wanted to keep you up to date on that. And Suzanne, Richard is correct. We should change the date on this to be April 3rd.
Suzanne just reminded me.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So this will be the one we want to post on the website. Yeah. So if you could change the date at the top to April 3rd so you're not confused. If everybody could do that, please. Okay. All right. Some other, and then the second portion that I have given out, I believe, is Article 3 and 4. Okay.
I have the annotated version. It's dated October 1st. I got off the box.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Suzanne? All right.
And this has-
Everybody has one?
This has the third.
And it has, I don't know, how do you, no, it's this one. How do you turn it off? It's 700, you know, it's a different person sending me the same email 700 times. They did it on Measure 8, too. But this will be for the topic for next week, Article 3 and 4. And it is quite lengthy. So we'd like to sort of stick, if we can, to the section that you've seen already, which is the preamble and Article 1 and Article 2 today. I don't know how to turn it off. And why don't you put in another room? It doesn't leave a login. So if we could, open public comments for section preamble, Article 1 and Article 2 only. Would appreciate that. And before we get to that, I just want to mention, before I forget, we're exploring methods of sending this out to, we have an email list of almost many of the citizens in the city, so we will be attaching, once we get to a final draft, we will be attaching parts of sending it out as we finalize each section to the general public. We also will be sending it out to a list of notables that the city has accumulated over the years. And Suzanne and I are looking for a way to open a public Dropbox so that we can start putting the documents in the Dropbox for you to see as we work. We just haven't figured out how to do that yet, but we will we'll get to it, all right? So public comments, anybody? All right. Yes, sir.
It's probably not on this particular things, but you know, it's good to have lawyers on the committee, and it's a good thing. But what you guys are doing now is really, with the lawyers, this would be the discovery phase, right?
I don't know.
I don't know, you know, but because you're trying to find documents and things in order to create a constitution for the city. But it sort of strikes me, and I don't know whether I can understand this, Mr. Giller, right? Giller, he created a document in 2006, and I don't know why we use that as a benchmark to make some comparison and see how you can show that particular document up. And you say you did not look at that particular document?
We did look at it, but we're not using it as a model.
Oh, I can accept that.
Okay. You know, you need to understand, when the framers of the Constitution wrote the Constitution,
yes.
you know,
You talked about that last time, yes.
Yeah, they used people like Rousseau and John Locke. Much of the Constitution, if you read John Locke, you'll see a ringing familiarity with it and in the Constitution and the words of Jefferson.
You know, they were fighting over some contentious issues during that time, which they did not include.
Jefferson and Adams were not involved in the framing of the Constitution, but you will see a lot of John Locke's words in the Constitution. The father of the Constitution, or framer, is Madison, and you will see a lot of his. You will see where he might have been accused of plagiarism at times. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, there are words very similar to that written by John Locke. So they used They had references too. They
Yes,
didn't,
yeah,
they
I
did not
understood that.
invent the wheel. Okay?
We'll
So-
go from there.
Thank you, Kenny.
Just a question.
Sure.
I really like this. Our values lie not in preventing,
Where are you?
page.
First
I'm on I'm on the second page.
Okay.
No, I'll take it back.
Section, can you give us a section number?
Yeah.
Get closer
Yeah.
to the microphone.
Okay. Is that better, dear? My boss has spoken.
Which section are you in?
Let me go back, Richard. Section 201.
Thank you.
Okay, that is what we're discussing today, right, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, this said 2 on it. Yeah, I like that part. Our values lie not in hiding embarrassment in public and unpleasant occurrences. Our values.
Are you in Article 1 or Article 2?
No, he's 201.
I'm sorry, he's 201. I got it, got it.
Our values lie not in, and you back it up by saying our values lie not in preventing dissent. Dissent is what built this country a long time ago. And we're talking about our first Constitution. That's why it came about, because people risked themselves to say this is not right and we don't like to be treated like that. And we're going to, and I like to see you really live up to the Constitution and give us the opportunity to keep dissenting if we so desire. Also, on 202, on the ethics code, there's you outline it, but what I need to know at this time is, have you got any further definitions? Is this just as far as you got?
Well, right, actually, Kenny, if the charter is approved, the first job the city council would do would be to adopt an ethics code, which would mean they would have to write it.
Okay, that's just a point. There's a lot of things in a charter that's put in after
Exactly.
the charter is voted in, and you'll see a lot of that. So people should ask questions about that.
If we had time or the inclination, I guess we could write the ethics code, but then the ethics code might become controversial, so.
Well, everything you're going to be doing is controversial. You're a politician, you can expect that. It's a very controversial position to have, especially now.
So your point being?
A point being that I would like to see, I'm one of the people that would like to see what I'm buying. The old term on the farm in the Midwest is, I'm not going to buy a pig and a poke.
So you'd like to see the ethics
I'd like to see them fully explained, Tom.
code more developed? I think we can flesh this out a little more and without actually writing the ordinance, because we don't have the power to write the ordinance for the new city council. So, but we can do a better job of fleshing it out. Yes, sir.
Okay, Craig Givens.
Hi, Craig.
How you doing today?
Good.
Concerned Citizen Moreno Valley Advocacy Group. Now, you stated that our model is the Riverside Charter.
Well, I'm saying we're using it as our main model.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we're going to do word for word. And
Okay.
you have to understand we're advocating a different form of government than they have, so it's not going to fit cookie cutter.
Okay, so that would be my second question: is how different is this document that you have handed out us compared to the Riverside
Well, I'll
document?
tell you what, at the next meeting and on our website, you can just go to the Riverside website. Their charter is on it. Okay. But at the next meeting, I will hand out the Riverside charter. It's a very short charter, and I have no problem doing that.
Okay. The next question would be, now, this is the process that we're going to be going through. You give us a document, and then we're asked to comment on the document in just a short period of time without having time to digest the document.
No, you had this document last week.
Last week?
And it's been on the website.
Also this one?
No, that one you just got. We're not going to ask you to comment on that till next week. But listen, you can comment on any of them in writing at any time. And writing is better.
Okay.
And we will post the written comments on the website.
Okay, so.
And listen, at any time through this process, you can comment on it.
And,
Once we've gone through it and had a week to digest it, let's say next week, you want to talk about 1 and 2, we'll allow that.
Okay. And finally, is there another charter that you're using for comparison other than Riverside?
Well, as I said, we're looking at them all, and when I get the Dropbox, if I can figure out a way to get a Dropbox made, When Dropbox is just a fashion of putting a file on the cloud so that everyone has access to it, we'll put all of our tools in that Dropbox for you so that you can use the same tools we're using. And if you want to add a tool for us to look at, you can just drop it in the Dropbox and we'll all see it at the same time. All the public, every citizen in the city will see it at the same time. That means, Deanna, you'll have direct access.
All right, so if you're planning on calling for election by June, the charter that you're working on, is it already completed? Or
No.
this is just a piecemeal thing, you're doing it step by step by
We're doing
step?
it chapter by chapter,
Chapter by chapter. And you plan on being done by June?
hopefully.
Okay. All right, that's my
Maybe
question.
sooner. If we try to get it on the November election, the last date we have to have this ready is about August 9th. So in order for us to have lots of public comment and public input, it would be better if we got it done in the middle of May.
So let me just come back to that. Don't you have to call for an election
That's what we would
before
be.
August the 9th? Because August the 9th would be consolidation.
No.
No?
Now listen to what I'm saying.
Okay.
August 9th is the last date for us to file with the with the county clerk to call for the election, to put it on the November ballot.
Okay, that was not the information that I got from the county registrar's office.
Well, the city attorney is right here, so let's ask her.
Okay, do you have to call for an election by June, and then you have to consolidate? That means everything that's going to be on the ballot has to be ready by August the 9th.
August the 9th would be the last day that we can transmit documents to the
Right.
county.
But you have to let the county know that you're going to have an election in June.
By June 28th. By June 28th.
That would be a decision for the council to make, and I don't think it's at the point now that they can make that decision.
So if they don't make that call by June, you can't get on the ballot in November.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we intend to have it on the ballot by November, or by August, or by June, and make all of those things. We're not going to miss a date. We're going to be there.
Okay, just so I have this straight, the charter.
Hi, Marcia.
Good afternoon. The charter, okay, say you're going to be putting something together, and then it's going to go forward. But it's basically kind of an outline, and the ordinances and things cannot actually be intricately, I can't even say the word, okay, detail written until after the charter is voted in by the people.
Well, we will adopt, if you will read in the next section, you will see where we adopt all the existing ordinances.
Well, yeah, unless the charter rules it out, is what it says too.
Right.
So again, we're kind of voting on something, but the details are kind of nebulous.
By the
because
time
they
we
can
have the
change.
charter done, you'll know exactly what ordinances will be in
So all
force
the
and will not.
detail-
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that will be nebulous will be like Kenny said, where there's references in the charter where it says about ordinances to be done. Those will be yet to be drafted. Tiana?
Page 2, the fourth paragraph down, to carry out the purposes set forth in this section, the
Could
provisions
you-
of the Ralph M. Brown Act and
Well, could you
public.
give us a section number, please?
We need to put page numbers on.
There are
It's the
pages.
second page. No, wait a minute. It's 1, 2, 3, fourth
Look
page.
at the top of the page.
Page 4,
Page 4.
fourth paragraph.
Okay.
Basically on this, yours.
Where does it say? Where are you at?
Fourth
1, 2, 3, 4.
paragraph.
Okay, to carry out?
To carry out the purposes, the provisions of the Brown Act and the Public Records Act shall apply. And it says, to any commission, committee, board, or other body created by the charter. Can we make sure that any committee convened in secret in a closed session be added, and any and every ad hoc committee made up of less than a majority of the council also be included, so
Can-
that
can
you
we take
quit?
those-
Can let me finish,
Yeah,
please?
I understand that, but
No, please let me finish. We don't interrupt you when you talk.
ahead.
Sometimes we don't like to
Go
be
ahead.
interrupted either.
go ahead.
what I want you to stop telling us is that you're doing us a favor by letting us be here. So what I would like to see the charter say is exactly that, that any committee, ad hoc or otherwise, will be subject to the Brown Acts. You stop telling us you're doing us a favor by letting us be here.
Thank you, Deanna.
Because that's irritating.
Well, number one, I'm
Thank
not
you.
telling you you have a favor for being here. I'm telling you that we do not have to allow, we do not have to post the agenda, and we don't have to publicly notice the meeting. That's all I said. So thank you. All right, any other comments?
We get into the work, I guess, start with
Yeah, we got 2 more minutes.
That means you don't have any intention of making sure that's in.
I said we hear you. Thank you. We'll take it under consideration.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to thank you for having this openness of these committee. I wasn't able to attend last week's, but I was able to watch it on the internet, and that's exactly what we need more of. And I'm hoping that's what that part of the charter is. I'd also encourage if there was some way we had a community bulletin board to where anybody could just go ahead and post their ideas and their feelings about the charter, so that it's open to everybody.
Kind of a blog, maybe.
Well, not so much as a blog, but something that's open to all, where they don't have to have a certain
Well, I think
program.
I follow you.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do about that.
Right.
Maybe just on the city website, maybe not connected with anything in particular.
Right. I'm very pleased with the preamble. You know, I think it's somewhat generic. I personally would love to see something there about renewable and our pursuit of that, but I know that's everybody can't have their own thing in there. I am concerned about if we're basing our charter on the Riverside city's charter, which I think they have a fairly good charter. I've compared theirs to the city of San Bernardino, and I believe that the fact that they have a public utility and have been able to use some of the funds for that public utility has helped them in ways that San Bernardino didn't have that. My concern is that I'm not looking at today. I'm looking at tomorrow, and it's my belief that eventually our city would be able to. I think we could do it with today's technology, but I'm positive we'll be able to do it in tomorrow's technology, produce enough more power than we use. My concern is that the utility doesn't see it that way. I've talked to, I believe her name was Mrs. Olcom.
I know who you're talking about.
Right, and she, you know, everybody's thrilled with the idea of solar power. I've never talked to anybody who wasn't, but her view is that the utility considers it an intermittent source of power, and you know, that's just not a valid argument. If the sun does not rise tomorrow, I will pay her electric bill.
Well,
you know, it's
it is
very
intermittent. Mine does not work at night.
Yours doesn't work at night.
No, it really doesn't.
But my system actually produces more power than we use.
Yeah, his does too.
Okay,
You know,
so-
interestingly enough.
But I can't store it. I have
But you
to
can't
rely on
store it.
Edison-
But
my Edison
but that's
battery.
coming. If you believe that technology is going to stop today and we're not going to get any better, then you're not forward thinking.
No, but listen.
It's coming. The DOE is working on a system in Texas right now with storage capacity. So it's coming. You're looking at today's what we have today. and-
I share your forward view, and to that end, that's why we just passed the ordinance to form a utility commission.
Correct.
So that the citizens have some way of having some input to the running of our utility, which they've never had.
Right.
So therefore, the staff's opinion was the only opinion. So you now will have an opportunity to give your opinion.
And that's excellent. And I appreciate that.
And not only that, but your ideas about solar are very parallel with a lot of people's, and you and I will be talking about those in the future. I think there's a vast opportunity for our city to move forward in that direction. So never, you know, we'll persevere through this charter, but there is that utility commission that is going to be there, and we're going to need lots of informed input.
Another thing that would be different of the utility, I believe ours is, and I'm not exactly sure, but does ours deal with water like Riverside's does?
It does not, because we buy our water from Eastern
Right, so it's different than their
But we may at some point. It's baby steps right now. Let's just,
Right.
our first step is to just get the utility under control, figure out where it is, figure out a plan for what to do with it, and how to get it into the energy producing business as opposed to the energy purchasing business.
And I just wanted to comment on one more thing. You know, all the transition, all that stuff looks like it's very orderly, and we're not going to have any hiccups in that. The idea, in the last meeting, we were talking about the differences between a strong mayor as opposed to a weaker mayor,
Right.
or a stronger city council. I would just, this is just my own personal belief, and I like the way it's stated in this, what we have right now about the management living in the city, having a vested interest. I think that's very important. I would like to go even further than that as far as having, because at the present time, we don't have a choice about Henry Garcia being our city manager. He was chosen by the previous board. He's not accountable to the voters in any way. If we had a mayor who was responsible for somebody that we could say, okay, our vision of Moreno Valley at this present time is logistics. Well, who can we hold accountable for that vision? Who can we oppose in the next election or support in the next election? I believe that there needs to be somebody that's accountable to the citizens, citywide.
And I believe that this form of government gives you that.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we got to get to work here a little bit, so.
Let me start then, okay, can I?
Well, if I could direct you just a little bit. On this preamble in Article 1, everything on these in Article 2, everything has been vetted by the attorney. I did not put the attorney's comments on here because I couldn't figure out how to do it on part of a document and not part of the other, but the only part, I believe, was it section 200, Michael?
I think primarily 202.
202.
Can I back up, though, and do it in order?
Well, just let me get through with this. 202, Suzanne has comments to make, and I would like to kind of work with her with that section. So if you've read section 202, at some point, Suzanne, I'd like to give you some advance notice that you need to be preparing, because at the end, when we get to 202, we're going to need you to take us through some of the changes or some of the language problems you
Actually,
have.
I'm sorry. No, it was
No, because the 202 you gave last week.
201.
201.
201 was the issue.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So at 201, then, could you, 202 is the ethics, which Kenny talked about. So when you get to 201, be prepared, Suzanne, to tell, if you could take your draft out where your changes, and then what you have, and then take us through those. Okay, Richard, go.
Yeah, well, first off, some typos on page 3 of 5, on the fourth paragraph.
Page 3,
Page 3 of 5.
fourth,
On the fourth,
okay.
section 106, fourth paragraph, at the very end of the first sentence, that than should be a then.
Where?
First sentence,
Okay.
right there, all the way to the right, end, the last.
Okay,
No, then.
yeah.
That should be a then, okay? And then you look down on the first word of the sixth sentence or fifth sentence, that then should be a then. And then go on down to,
Well, why don't you just give us that copy? and
okay,
I'll
I'll give it
change
to you, that's fine. Now, on section 105, we talked about this before. This is what I propose we need to have, the last sentence of this first paragraph in 105 should read, and shall be authorized and regulated by city ordinance. Because we were talking about the difference between the Riverside and other charters is that they put the details of the commissions and everything into charter. So if you want to change a commission or add one or change their function or combine them, it's going to take a charter change, which is a big deal.
So you're saying,
It says here that all the commission
where would
boards-
you put the addition?
at the very end. It says, all of these established by the council shall continue to exist, exercise of powers, etc., conferred upon them, but of course they're conferred by ordinance. Provided, however, that the city council may abolish and may alter their structure, membership, and duties. All right?
So then you would add the language that
Well, we
said.
changed the wording slightly, but basically, that the way you do all these things it says we should do would be by city ordinance, which,
So just put by city ordinance.
by city ordinance, right.
Okay,
In other words, this allows the council to do that.
but they
But-
have to do it by ordinance.
Right, and we're doing it that way now, and Suzanne just confirmed that the committees themselves are also established by ordinance. So anytime we change any of that stuff, it's done by.
So all
city
we have to do is just add the words by city ordinance,
I think so.
okay?
ordinance. Yeah.
I'd suggest something else in the event, and since the whole thing hasn't been written yet, unless otherwise provided for in the charter. There may be some committees or specific groups, i.e. maybe a library commission or something else, that you want to ensure continues.
But I guess the point is that are you trying to say that you don't want a future council of 5 and a future mayor to be able to change that?
We may
if
not.
Circumstances change?
Maybe not, don't know.
But I don't-
mean,
I
I'm
don't-
just, we haven't gotten to that
Well-
position yet, so.
I guess what I'm saying is that we're here in 2013, and we're gonna write something that is, like our US Constitution is so general. But if we're gonna write it in such a way that a council 10 years from now can't do away with it.
Well, I think the resolution of this is, instead of debating something, some abstract thing, Suzanne, can you make a note that if something comes up in the charter that is contrary to Richard's suggestion, that we would then have this discussion about that? But if we get through this whole charter and it's just an abstract idea.
Well, if you get to the point in drafting this charter that you feel that it's so necessary to include a specific board or commission in the charter, then we could come back to this section
Thank you, sir.
and add the language that Mr. Geller is thinking about.
I think does that satisfy?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my point is that the people elect the council. It may be that the people out there are so outraged with the current 5 members of the council that they go off and they elect 5 totally new members to the council. And I think that since we've been running committees and we've been running, they come and they go. We did away with the Veterans Committee years ago because no one ever attended and they didn't do anything. And the necessity of things changing, I think the council should be able to react to that without having to go to the voters for a charter change. Clearly, if there's some big major thing that you need, I suppose you could.
I think Michael's language just said that if something in the future, as we're drafting it, was to exempt that, or was an exception to that, then that would be allowed. I don't think he was saying it in the manner in which you're looking at it. He wasn't saying it would be the rule of the city. He was saying it would be the exception of the city. So in the event, down the road, when we're writing it, we found something that he would accept, that would be an exception, this would allow for the exception. That's all he was saying.
Yeah, I think the flexibility and the ability of the future councils to be able to regulate the city by ordinance, by how they have committees and how they don't have committees, and to be able to change with the times, avoids having to go back for a charter review, because when you go back for a charter review, other things get thrown out and added in. I think the least number of charter changes that you have to make in the future would be the best. Make a charter that establishes a form of government that is so general that you can do it. And by the same token, I think that the ideas of...
Let me interrupt here. If you look at the City of Oakland's charter, the City of Oakland's Ethic Commission sets compensation levels. So I'm not suggesting we do that, but that is one committee that you wouldn't want to always maybe have at the whim of a council. And it's appointed by members outside of the council, and the mayor appoints some, the council appoints some. And so I think Michael's point is correct. There is a possibility down the road we might find a committee, but let's just talk about that when we get to it.
Actually, isn't the planning commission going to be part of the charter?
Yes.
It's not I think it's mandated by state law in essence, so.
Yes.
That's one commission that will be in the charter,
So
for sure.
I think there's nothing wrong with Michael's language, Richard, and I don't think it in any way imposes what you think it does. And but I'm willing to, for the sake of moving forward, to forego the language. But Michael makes a good point.
Yeah, no, I agree. Clearly, Mike, I agree. If we come up with whatever it's going to be, if it's the great monument committee or commission, and it's so necessary for the charter that we want to make it harder for future councils, then I agree with that.
He just gave you an example of one that is not formed by ordinance, and it's the planning commission. So, I don't know.
I'm not sure some of the rules of the planning commission are by ordinance, aren't they? Some of them are by state requirement.
There are state requirements to have a planning commission. We do have in our ordinance the establishment of a planning commission, and then the planning commission does adopt its own rules and procedures consistent
Yes.
with state law. So there's a conglomeration of the various levels of lawmaking there.
By ordinance is okay with you? If we just said by ordinance without the additional verbiage that Mr. Geller suggested?
I think it would be legally acceptable.
Okay, let's move on.
You wanna mark these or George?
Probably the least we say, the better, huh?
Yeah, no, I agree. The least we say, the better.
Any other comments?
Where you want to go?
Well,
on?
let's get down to 201 and if you're through, are you
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, I just did those typos, and, oh, I did have one other question, and it's just a question. On the 104 effective date of charter, is that enough upon its acceptance and filing by the Secretary of State? Should it be acceptance and filing and then next council meeting following that or something? So we have a date certain, because we won't really know when it's accepted and filed.
You know, I
right away. Mike,
looked,
you deal with that all the time.
That's what's in a lot of them.
I looked-
I think it's a problem. I don't think it's a problem.
No? Okay.
I looked at probably 50, 60 charters.
Mhm.
I would say this is the verbiage in 30, 40 of them.
Or we could say, because you won't know the date it's actually accepted, it could theoretically be 10 days before, upon
Notice.
notice to the city, upon notice to the city of its acceptance and filing, is that better?
I
Mike,
don't
or
know
not?
that you get notice in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
I think
We're getting to-
I think we're
you know,
nitpicking.
all
Yeah,
these-
okay, that's cool, that's cool. That's just a question came up, that's right.
So section 202, 201, Suzanne, there seems to be a little difference, you know, one of the, in terms of our verbiage here. So, Michael, can you kind of state your theory on this?
Which
Well-
one, 201?
201.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, some of the material's taken word for word out of this. A number of paragraphs are word from Riverside, not with no changes at all. And obviously, it's worked for them. I know, like I say, in some areas, a compensation plans is in the charter. I don't care what the state does, that should be public information no matter what. And these rules have changed back and forth. Oh, you can get certain employees you can't. That's why I think in the interest of the type of council and open form of government we're trying to do, compensation plans will always be public no matter what the state does or doesn't do, which is the reason it's in there specifically, even though right now I believe the state of the law is that they have to be made public.
Well,
Where
you
is
know,
that,
if you
Mike?
look at
It's the last paragraph of
section 201.
201.
If you look at most cities, they do put the city, all the city staff's contracts on there. This is one of the few cities where you will have to hire a private investigator to figure out what the city manager makes. I mean, I'm just saying that for effect. I mean, you could get it through an public record request, but once you got it, you might not understand it. So the bottom line is that I firmly believe that if all possible, if there's any legal way to do it, everybody's contract should be on the internet for all the taxpayers to see. So they can just go down. And, you know, it's interesting to me that people have this problem, yet they give it to the League of California Cities. And in my binder here, I have everyone's pay through 2010. And so they have no problem turning it over to the League of, you can get everyone's pay by just going to the League of California Cities. Now, it won't be current. It'll be through 2010 or 2011. But the bottom line is, if we can do this, Suzanne, I really strongly feel that we need to put everybody's contract on the website.
Well, it's every employee, not just
Yeah,
people with
everyone. You know,
contracts.
where I come from, they put everybody's pay in the newspaper as a public notice.
Hey, Tom, can I give an anecdotal reason why that happens? I'm a member of a board of a very large nonprofit organization. And when I first came on, you know, I was trying to fit my knowledge of how I work in an organization to that, and it was difficult because they had some weird rules. One of which was that the compensation of the executive director was not known to anybody except the compensation committee. And I said, well, I wonder how much he makes, and I'd like to know, you know, da-da-da. And it turned out later on down the road, I think we're changing that we found out that there was some mistakes that were made that were IRS issues. And as a result of that, making that information public, not just to the board members, the council members, and the public, is important. If there's a problem in that compensation or a problem in that agreement, everybody should know about it, and it's the old light of day kind of a thing. So I think that's a great idea, and I think that's wonderful, and I would personally like to be able to go online and see what it is.
So can we let Suzanne tell us why it's not a good idea?
Uh-oh. Yeah. I like your idea, though.
I'm not saying it's a good or a bad idea. I just had some comments about it. Looking at section 201, since you're talking about the very last paragraph in your draft of 201, starting with, it is the intention. I just had a note about the last phrase of it, where you say, it starts with, "and access to this information may not be restricted except by amendment of this charter." I don't think you should, I don't think that the access could be restricted even by charter. I think that's in the state law.
So we should strike that?
I would put a period after information and strike the rest of it. I think the rest is,
All right.
it's not necessary.
Okay.
Then working our way back up.
Yeah, are we working, can I, before we get off this
Sure.
page, there was the thing about the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the first place, I think the Brown Act is good, but I also believe that there are reasons there's exceptions for ad hoc committees generally. And that is because of the extra time and the staff time and the posting and the cost of that and everything. If it's something that's not monumental, like a charter thing, and maybe some silly little thing like changing the size of the tires on the city vehicles, that there's a reason to expedite an ad hoc committee. It may only last 3 weeks. And I think that trying to make the Brown Act even more restrictive than it already is, or making any changes, I think this addresses it. If it's a necessary change, the state will make the change. And maybe someday they'll even make it apply to them.
Right, that was the bulk of my comment on this section. The draft I reviewed that was handed out last week, in the paragraph, it starts out, "To carry out the purposes set forth in this section, blah, 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 shall apply to the city council." The next phrase that says, "and to any commission, committee, board, or other body created by charter, ordinance, resolution, or formal action of the city council or by the mayor," I think that significantly broadens the application of the Brown Act as currently written. That would require notices, agenda.
It was, Suzanne, it was our intention to do just that. We did want to broaden the Brown Act.
So I think it needs to be brought forward and highlighted. It is, this language would be more restrictive than the state law, and bind the city to more restrictions.
And when you see the sunshine ordinance requirements, you'll be even more restrictive to this. This city needs a great dose of openness.
And then I believe that the other paragraph following special circumstances and in general, I don't think that adds anything other than what's already written in the Brown Act.
Okay, so can you give me the exact line? We should
It's the
put
whole it's that paragraph right after.
special circumstance.
Yeah.
Take that out.
Yeah. Well, you're saying, you're giving so much access. I just want you to be aware that there is the constitutional right to privacy in the Public Records
I
Act
got you.
that you have to balance the right to privacy with the public's right to
So
know
you're
as written in the Public Records Act.
What would your suggested change be?
I would delete the paragraph that starts with special circumstances and the following one.
In general, or?
Yeah, like I say, these are right out of Riverside's, for better or for worse. And maybe
Michael-
we know more, maybe we don't, I don't know.
I'm just offering comments to the
And,
draft.
and what is your concern on this? That we might end up at some point being caught between a rock and a hard spot between openness and privacy?
Right, there is a constitutional right to privacy that there's a balancing test provided in the Public Records Act, and we have to maintain that balancing test.
This does say citizens' right to privacy must be protected with the knowledge, would that, with the involvement of governmental matters necessarily reduces an expectation of privacy. So that statement alone says kind of contrary to what you're saying current state of the law is.
I don't think that's what she said, but
Well, no, she's saying that there are times when a public record request, the city would have to weigh the privacy rights of
right.
the person. Just let me finish with the person's intent, or the target of the request. It might, let's say it was a city employee, it might, there might be their rights to privacy might be needed to be taken into consideration, and the city needs to balance between the citizen's right to know and the employee's right to privacy. And this statement says, the citizen's right to privacy must protect the knowledge that involvement in government matters necessarily reduces an expectation of privacy. So they're saying, if the public employee must expect a reduced expectation of privacy. Now, what Suzanne is seeing, if I'm hearing her correctly, is that makes the razor's edge that she's already standing on even thinner. Am I correct, Suzanne?
Tom, can I? Yeah.
Well, let's get down to one thing at a time here.
We have to balance constitutional right to privacy with the constitutional right of public information.
And when Riverside's charter was written,
it was before the Brown Act
and before the right of privacy developed in the constitutional law. So I understand Michael's point, but I also understand your point. The law has evolved and it has given the individual more rights to privacy. And do we have, as a city, the authority to say that because you're a public employee, you have less right to privacy?
Tom, can I?
I don't believe so.
Because you're talking.
Let me see, am I framing the argument correctly, though?
Generally.
Okay.
You're mentioning, you keep talking about public employee, but it's citizen right to privacy. And as an example of that, if a Public Records Act request is made that they want, let's say you have a city employee or a city elected official that has a cell phone, that's a city cell phone, and you want a copy of all the cell phone records, generally speaking, they will redact the phone numbers a lot of times. Because if a citizen calls in,
sure,
or you call a citizen, that number may be unlisted, or it may be that that person is not given the right to have that information be given to the world. The same way may go to some email addresses or certain other things. It's not just the employee of the city or the elected person, it's the people that are contacting him. If Chris wants to call me from his mother's house and he doesn't want his mother's phone number, he shouldn't expect it just because he calls me, suddenly the whole world's going to have access
that's
to
my
his mother's
point.
house. It's a citizen right to
but
privacy.
every employee is a citizen.
Yeah, but
and it does not have in Moreno Valley.
Right.
You are a citizen of the United States first, a citizen of the state of California second, and a citizen of Riverside County third, and a citizen of Moreno Valley fourth. So these are citizens. Everyone's a citizen.
Right. But I'm saying is that public employees are included, I guess you could say that. But more,
Well, unless they come from a different planet or a different country.
All the people that choose to call or email their elected official, for whatever reason. Just because you do that, does that mean that you give permission for us to broadcast his mother's phone number?
I'm not suggesting they would broadcast his phone number, but you must have some concern about this, Suzanne. So be specific. What is your concern?
I think as the law evolves statewide, that the state legislature and the state judiciary will address those topics. I don't know if we need to include those in the charter.
Michael?
I don't really care at this moment. It's just not that, it's not really that important.
I agree with Suzanne, that should be deleted.
So Suzanne, what is the downside to leaving it in there? Give me, not a hypothetical, or give me a real example.
It binds the city.
To something that might be unlawful?
It might be unlawful. The state law could change, and
could you add verbiage instead of deleting it to say in compliance with state law?
Of course.
Well,
then why don't we add that verbiage? And
I think that's going to be that's going to be part of the whole charter. If anything in this charter is found or is in fact illegal, then
well, it's not just it wouldn't be considered illegal, it would just could be more binding, more restrictive.
Right. So can you
perhaps-
suggest language for that to add?
Or take off and start over on this paragraph?
Well, it looks like it's a fairly well-written paragraph with, if we could just fix it by adding.
So, just in compliance with the state law as it may change over time or something like that?
In compliance with state law. Well, just state law, because if it changes, it's state law, right?
Correct.
All right, so you would add that right at the end of the sentence that says public information,
Public,
considered public information in compliance with state law?
I don't see that.
It's, show, you know, because it's the intent.
Okay.
And then let's take a vote on this, so sort of, it's just kind of a consensus after we.
I could work it in there.
Okay.
somewhere
So-
in those 3 paragraphs.
Michael, what did you, give us the theory. We're gonna be split on this vote, because I'm gonna vote to have the more restrictive language that allows more openness. You're gonna vote, can you live with this language, Richard, if you
Well-
and her agree to work it out?
I'm thinking along the same way that Suzanne is that if you don't have a reason to severely tie the hands and make the language more restrictive, more restrictive, more restrictive, I think it's a lot better to be more flexible. In other words, basically make it such a way that you're complying with the intent of it, but you get into a point where the words are so restrictive that there's a very good likelihood that there will be occasions to violate that privacy, because you're dealing with an employee that's going to be responding to this, not a lawyer.
I personally believe that if it comes to violating an individual's privacy or the good of the general public, the good of the general public outweighs the privacy concerns.
Well,
That's but I'm not the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but that's what I believe.
I think where it involves somebody getting hurt, or in other words, you have somebody that's vindictively searching for information, and that information is given out that does violate the privacy, like you just said, I don't think that public's right to know should violate that privacy.
Okay, but if
It
we-
may be that Chris's mother's phone number is really something that needs to be kept
Does
private.
state law currently prohibit Chris's mother's phone number from being given out?
But there's other examples similar to that.
But does it?
Like, for instance, let's say your medical benefits, all right? It may be that an employee has medical benefits designated for an adopted child, or a child from a previous marriage.
Then you don't
or
believe
something
state
like
law would cover that?
I don't know if it will. What I'm saying is that in order to more protect the privacy, I think privacy is an important right of the Constitution of the United States.
But
and I
listen,
think-
it's not an inherent right. It was, so.
No, but I think that any time you have an opportunity, I don't know what legitimate government purpose there is in delving into such things that would violate people's privacy. And I think to make this come down to be so restrictive, Suzanne's idea is to delete that paragraph so that we won't get into the situation of possibly violating someone's privacy. I would like us to have a charter that does not open it up to the violation of someone's privacy.
What ordinances does the city of Moreno Valley have that restrict or protect privacy rights beyond what the state law protects? Do we have a single ordinance that protects privacy?
We operate in compliance with the state law.
So if we put the word in here that says in compliance with state law, aren't we abiding by the law?
I guess you are, and if you just say it shall be by state law, then you don't even need to have this paragraph in there, do you?
Well, just the example.
It's to give people an intent of what we intend. You know, legislators and councilmen and all of that are not perfect.
Well, as a matter of fact, many agencies attempt to circumvent these. They claim everything's a violation of the right to privacy. There were newspaper requests for retirement benefits of law enforcement officers. For some reason, there was this belief, even though the public is paying for it, that this should be secret, that by giving out this information, that some terrible violate their privacy. They're getting a public pension paid for with public funds, and why shouldn't it be? But the fact is, many agencies do not provide information openly and easily,
And I understand.
and even in compliance with the law.
And I understand your concern, Richard, because many times this public records thing is become misused by the public, and it costs hundreds and hundreds of hours of already strained city staff to comply with it. But you know, that's the price of doing business. You know, if we don't like it, we can always go sell cars. So,
Well, I guess the whole point is that I'm not so sure that a charter, which is supposed to be a document that should survive various councils and various times and various law changes, as far as the case that, I'm familiar with that case, Mike, that you mentioned, and I happen to agree with the court's decision, but that's state law. So if we put state law, those kind of case law will be the new law. We won't have to go back and rewrite
you know
the
what?
charter.
When you're sued, it is going to be the law anyhow.
Yeah.
So you might as well just face it up front, avoid the lawsuit, huh?
I guess the thing is, you know, I'm agreeing with Suzanne more than anything, is that if we have no real particular need directed by a particular necessity to make it that restrictive, and we can just refer to the state law, then we should. I think the Brown Act is adequate, and the state law, as modified by case law, is adequate.
So what is if you took this sentence that says, it is an intention of the residents of Moreno Valley, you would strike that all?
No, I think that Suzanne wanted it stricken after the word information.
We agree to that.
Right. I think the sentence, the whole paragraph she wants stricken is special circumstance dictate. And I think that's very hard to read that thing and really understand what it's
So
saying.
you're saying she should strike special circumstances dictate that there must be
The whole
exceptions to access. I just want to read it for the people at home. But those exceptions should be narrowly drawn and narrowly exercised. So let's take it sentence by sentence. Special circumstances dictate that there must be an exception to access, but those exceptions should be narrowly drawn and narrowly exercised. Do you have a problem with that sentence?
Suzanne?
Okay, special circumstances dictate that there must be exceptions to access. I think that exceptions to the access are already provided for in the Public Records Act law. I don't know if you want to provide more exceptions to the access.
Well, let's say at this point, must be exceptions to access as provided by the Public Records law.
That's fine.
As provided.
That would be in compliance with state law.
All right? As provided by the Public Records Act.
In other words, Suzanne, the exceptions are already codified
Yes.
and
in the
tested
state
by law. Right. So
All right.
unless we're going to make more exceptions or less, and I'm not sure we could if it's state law.
But let's go to the next sentence. But those exceptions should be narrowly drawn and narrowly exercised. Any problem with that?
Well, as long as they're still in compliance with state law in the previous sentence.
Okay. Public employees must be protected from unwarranted invasions of privacy, while the public's right to fundamental information must be protected. Citizens' right to privacy must be protected with the knowledge that involvement in government matters necessarily reduces an expectation of privacy. Any problem with that?
I'm not sure how it reduces the expectation of privacy. I don't know what the law says. If you're not a public figure, there's a difference between a public figure, obviously. If you're a private citizen, the first time you've ever called the mayor or written the mayor or emailed the mayor, I'm not sure your expectation of privacy should
So
be
if-
changed.
I don't know, I think that becomes a public record. The email becomes a city record. If I send a public records request, all emails between Michael Geller and the mayor, I believe that's, happens all the time.
Oh, it does, yeah, no kidding. But I guess the thing is that
And obviously, you come to a public meeting, it's a public meeting. You may be on TV, and you get up and speak, there's even less expectation of privacy, because it's on TV. And again, there's a distinction. There's public figures, and then there's limited public figures. You know, we have many people in Moreno Valley that probably are limited public figures for a variety of things because of how they interject themselves into city politics, myself included. There are many people that speak frequently that I think they've become a limited public figure for the purposes of any of the rules.
I guess you're dealing with this in two different ways. One is you're talking about somebody that's calling the mayor. What if the mayor calls someone?
Well,
I mean, every time I get a call from a councilman or a mayor, I have to watch out because everything I say is gonna be public record.
Well, I don't.
No, I don't see
know
why
how
it
the
wouldn't.
Conversations aren't recorded.
No,
If you send an email to somebody on your official account, you know that that's
yeah,
producible.
no, I know, well, it is at least right now.
well, and if you're in a deposition and someone asks you what was the conversation you had with the mayor, you're gonna have to truthfully answer
Or make a proper objection.
or make a proper
Make
objection.
a proper objection, that's a good turning point. I don't know, Suzanne, what do you think about that? How would it reduce your expectation of privacy? Can this paragraph limit or reduce the expectation of privacy beyond what the law provides?
I don't think a charter could reduce a person's personal expectation of privacy. When they come to a council meeting, they're asked to give their identity and their address, but it's not required.
Right, they don't have to.
But if they're like certain members, they're well recognized, they don't need to. We have it memorized.
Like, we all know Pete Bleckert.
Pete,
Pete.
Well,
So,
did you think that was okay, that one sentence?
and he lives in a P.O. box.
I think if you preface it that it's going to be in compliance with state law.
all right.
I
So
agree.
are we agreed?
Yeah,
All right.
if you need to have it in, as long as you preface it with that in compliance with state law.
All right, I have the note, I will do I have taken your notes. I will put them onto a draft and submit it to Suzanne for her final blessing. And if we all agree, we will post that on the website. And then we will place it in the first draft folder.
Okay.
Well,
And
I also had a suggestion to label these paragraphs, the first one being an A, and then the second one is B.
special circumstances is A.
No, city agencies, right under 201. A,
Okay.
and then the paragraph that starts out with to carry out, that should be paragraph B.
Good idea.
You had already done that, and you know what? I had Cindy take it out because I couldn't figure how it got there. Sorry.
I put it in.
I unfixed it. I'm sorry.
One hand clapping.
Yeah, it was. All right. So now we're down to 202. We've talked about the code of ethics. Let's talk about Kenny's concern.
Well,
202.
we're not gonna write it today.
I understand
we're not
that,
gonna write it today.
but
I
but
think-
you heard my comment that we could maybe.
Tom, you
flip-
made a good point, and I'll hope to get Kenny on board with this. I would hate to think that the people in this city would vote yes on a charter or no on a charter based on the content of an ethics code that either is too weak or too strong. I think the issue of the ethics code being too weak or too strong should be decided when the ethics code is written and adopted by the city. I hate to see this charter fail because of a silly little mistake or.
Well, the very fact that we put the adoption of an ethic code in it tells what our intent is.
It
or at
shall
least-
adopt one, right?
Yes.
The
It
fight
tells
over-
our
The fight over
councils
the ethics
intent.
code should happen separately, right?
Yes, I agree. But I also see Kenny's point that, he'd like to know a little more about what it will address. So is there kind of a middle ground here that we can all accept that's not writing the ordinance, short of writing the ordinance,
You've got it.
to
There
give
is a-
direction?
There's a third option. I'm not suggesting we do it, but the third option is to have a mandatory ethics commission that drafts it. That is an alternative.
I really toyed with the fact of having a mandatory,
And
as
that
Oakland
would be in our
does.
next section on commissions and boards that would be established.
Yeah, let's do that next time.
And we
Sorry.
we could take that up in the next one, because, I think the Ethics Commission idea has a lot of merit. I mean, but, the bottom line is simply this. The city has a lot of critics, but it doesn't have a lot of volunteers. We've got so many commissions now, we probably ought to look at eliminating some that are not useful so that we can take the available available labor pool. But an Ethics Commission, in my mind, has a lot to offer.
So, and that's
Next time.
2 or 3 chapters.
Kenny,
away.
if
2 or 3
if
chapters.
2 or 3 chapters from now, we did the Ethics Commission and considered that, you could at least defer your opinion till we get there?
Yeah, I like the statement that says that's what you should do. But
Yeah.
I also think you're trying to sell something, and you know about sales. You dress it up and you show what you got. You show the best part. The best part of what you show is, hey, you can trust us. Right now, there's not going to be that much trust because of the vision of this company for some things.
So if we get down to that,
You need to show people something.
if we get down to that part about the Ethics Commission, and we do include an Ethics Commission, because that's one of the decisions that we have to make, and we flesh it out a little more in the Ethics Commission section of the charter, let's table this subject till then, and then we'll look at both sections at the same time and revisit them at that time. Is that okay?
I think that's wise.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
I'm not saying that I know everything, but
No,
I'm
but
just
I-
talking from my heart.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So that gets us almost down here to the end of what we are here today to discuss. It's 3 o'clock.
I have one last comment on this. And I'm not trying to pick on the people that were here, they're already gone. No, he's still here. This is like school. And if you have this material, which we're just passed out right now, you have a week to do it and read it. I would not want someone to come in next week that hasn't read it, start asking a bunch of questions about it, because you're wasting my time, you're wasting the other people in the audience's time. I mean, if you want us to give you a summary each week about what you should have read, I'm not prepared to do that. We need to get this thing moving, and I think that we're soliciting input during the week, and we expect you to read this and be aware of it and move along with us on this thing. So your questions should be, like Tom said, pertinent to what we're doing today. Like yours was very good on the ethics. That was excellent. And I think that you're on board with what we're doing today. We're not talking about 6 chapters down the road and all this other stuff.
No.
I always liked you, Ken. Come on, man.
So
I voted for you every
next week is going to be 14 pages, and it's 2 very tedious sections. So I'm almost of the opinion that we should divide it up. But
Let's give it a try,
well-
because they're all tied together.
well, right. So let's see if I will promise to try and have this ready for you before, so I'm not late. And if we run a little bit late next week, we could maybe get through it. So,
And the mayor follows, so
Yeah.
that'll be more fun.
okay. So,
You have to abstain from discussing the mayor's stuff.
no, because I'm not the mayor of the new city charter. So the bottom line, I think we had a productive session today, and hopefully we'll have an even more productive session next week. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, sir.
I have a comment on the preamble that I didn't.
Sure.
The statement, the line, create jobs that will improve quality of life of every resident. Isn't it a little ambitious for city government to be creating jobs?
Almost,
It can create the,
I got your feeling, but let me just tell you what I think. I think any job has the ability to improve the quality of life for any individual, because every citizen of this city deserves the dignity of a job. So,
But you would say that any job improves quality of life?
any job. If you're unemployed, you will agree with me. Any job.
Well, if I were to build a nuclear reactor right downtown Riverside.
The people working, well, I appreciate it, but listen, do folks work in nuclear reactors? Okay, those folks, that job improves their quality of life.
Nuclear waste dump, people work there.
They work there too. It didn't say, I'm just saying, employment, in any employment, if you go down here to people who've been unemployed for 3 years and you offer them a job, they're gonna feel that that job improves their quality of life.
Only if they're unemployed.
Pardon?
Only if they're unemployed.
Only if they're unemployed. But at 15% unemployment in this city, this does have merit. 40% if you get real.
100% if you're one of them.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Then we'll get out of here by 3. Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something?
No, on the one with the intentions, when you had arguments about special circumstances,
Yes.
you said you want to stop that at the access to this information. You said put a period there?
At information, yeah, where it says 3rd line,
Okay,
public
but
information,
really-
period.
Yeah.
Well, it would then say,
That makes sense.
and then it would say, in compliance with state law.
Yeah, but you say access to this information will be in compliance with state law?
Yes,
Okay, so you'll just extend that a little further.
yes.
I think the way you have it worded here kind of makes it seem that it is restricted, that you are restricting it. I'm all for what Mr. Stewart and what.
Well, when you say restricting it, what do you mean?
As though you're saying that we may give it to you or we may not.
No, it's the other way around. Mr. Stewart was saying that I am saying, and Mr. Geller is saying, that we want it
I know
given.
what you're saying and I know what it implies, but I'm saying that to me and maybe to other people, it seems that it is being restricted. I mean.
How do we, so you think
No, I
we
think
need to
it should be
clarify the
simple.
wording?
No, I think it should be simplified, as she mentioned, that we are bounded by state law, period.
There you go.
You know,
Well,
I think you're,
the
by
issue,
you,
the one reason we don't want to always be bound by
I
state law
understand- I
is
understand your
states
point.
change the law and they
Right.
could shut it all off, say it's no longer
by
binding.
them, their point saying that you're just restricted, I mean, you're following state law, period, will take care of that. We'll say that we are just, you know, whatever information is requested and whatever we can do or cannot do is by state law, not us.
Okay,
This is
Chris.
kind of-
Chris,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to take my word on this. What we're proposing gives the community more access.
I understand that. I just said that. I understand what your point is, but my point is the way it's worded here and the way people are gonna read it or say it, it kind of makes it seem a
I
little
follow your, so,
that it is, you are putting some kind of restriction. That's what I'm saying, that
didn't
it
either until I
seems
tried
like.
to use
I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that by simplifying it and saying we are gonna follow state law
Didn't intend
is
it. I know,
sufficient
so
and is,
I'll get it.
you know, will clarify it. There's no question whether you are going to do it or not going to do it, you're just gonna follow state law. By you saying, you know, we can dictate this,
Yeah, I
dictate
did.
that,
I
and this
didn't
and
find
that,
out
it
till I
may
used
be
it last week and
misconstrued
it
as
I follow you.
the city is being restricted. That's what I'm saying.
I got you.
understand your
I got you.
point, and I know your point is, you know,
my concern is that if we weaken this,
right.
someone down the road will construe it.
But you can't go wrong by
Differently.
saying you're gonna follow state law. You just can't go.
Well, we kind of did both. We kind of cut the baby in half.
No, we use it all the time. Anyway, I gotta
Thank-
turn back on. So just, I'll let you know when it's.
Motion to adjourn, aye.